a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Clinton-Lewinsky scandal. The Clinton-Lewinsky scandal was an American political sex scandal that involved 49-year-old President Bill Clinton and 22-year-old White House intern Monica Lewinsky. The sexual relationship took place between 1995 and 1997 and came to light in 1998. Clinton ended a televised speech with the statement that he did not have sexual relations with Lewinsky. Further investigation led to charges of perjury and to the impeachment of President Clinton in 1998 by the U.S. House of Representatives. He was subsequently acquitted on all impeachment charges of perjury and obstruction of justice in a 21-day Senate trial. Clinton was held in civil contempt of court by Judge Susan Weber Wright for giving misleading testimony in the Paula Jones case regarding Lewinsky, and was also fined $90,000 by Wright. His license to practice law was suspended in Arkansas for 5 years. Shortly thereafter, he was disbarred from presenting cases in front of the United States Supreme Court. Lewinsky was a graduate of Lewis and Clark College. She was hired during Clinton's first term in 1995 as an intern at the White House and was later an employee of the White House Office of Legislative Affairs. Some believe that Clinton began a personal relationship with her while she worked at the White House, the details of which she later confided to Linda Tripp, her Defense Department co-worker who secretly recorded their telephone conversations. In January 1998, Tripp discovered that Lewinsky had sworn an affidavit in the Paula Jones case, denying a relationship with Clinton. She delivered tapes to Kenneth Starr, the independent counsel who was investigating Clinton on other matters, including the Whitewater scandal, the White House FBI files controversy, and the White House Travel Office controversy. During the grand jury testimony, Clinton's responses were carefully worded, and he argued, it depends on what the meaning of the word is with regard to the truthfulness of his statement that there is not a sexual relationship, an improper sexual relationship, or any other kind of improper relationship. The wide reporting of the scandal led to criticism of the press for overcoverage. The scandal is sometimes referred to as Monica-gate, Lewinsky-gate, Tailgate, Sexgate, and Zippergate, following the gate nickname construction that has been popular since the Watergate scandal. The improper relationship between Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky was confirmed, but Clinton's marriage with Hillary Clinton survived the infidelity. Denial and subsequent admission. News of the scandal first broke on January 17, 1998, on the Drudge Report, which reported that Newsweek editors were sitting on a story by investigative reporter Michael Isikoff exposing the affair. The story broke in the mainstream press on January 21 in the Washington Post. The story swirled for several days and, despite swift denials from Clinton, the clamor for answers from the White House grew louder. On January 26, President Clinton, standing with his wife, spoke at a White House press conference and issued created by the Independent Counsel's Office, Clinton answered, "I have never had sexual relations with Monica Lewinsky." Clinton later stated, "I thought the definition included any activity by me, where I was the actor and came in contact with those parts of the bodies which had been explicitly listed." In other words, Clinton denied that he had ever contacted Lewinsky's genitalia, anus, groin, breast, inner thigh, or buttocks, and effectively claimed that the agreed-upon definition of sexual relations included giving oral sex, but excluded receiving oral sex. 2 months after the Senate failed to convict him, President Clinton was held in civil contempt of court by Judge Susan Weber Wright for giving misleading testimony regarding his sexual relationship with Lewinsky, and was also fined $90,000 by Wright. Clinton declined to appeal the civil contempt of court ruling, citing financial problems, but still maintained that his testimony complied with Wright's earlier definition of sexual relations. In 2001, his license to practice law was suspended in Arkansas for 5 years and later by the United States Supreme Court. Impeachment. In December 1998, Clinton's Democratic political party was in the minority in both chambers of Congress. A few Democratic members of Congress, and most in the opposition Republican Party, claimed that Clinton's giving false testimony and allegedly influencing Lewinsky's testimony were crimes of obstruction of justice and perjury and thus impeachable offenses. The House of Representatives voted to issue articles of impeachment against him, which was followed by a 21-day trial in the Senate. All of the Democrats in the Senate voted for acquittal on both the perjury and the obstruction of justice charges. 10 Republicans voted for acquittal for perjury: John Chafee, Susan Collins, Slade Gorton, Jim Jeffords, Richard Shelby, Olympia Snowe, Arlen Specter, Ted Stevens, Fred Thompson, and John Warner. 5 Republicans voted for acquittal for obstruction of justice: Chafee, Collins, Jeffords, Snowe, and Specter. President Clinton was thereby acquitted of all charges and remained in office. There were attempts to censure the president by the House of Representatives, but those attempts failed. Effect on 2000 presidential election. The scandal arguably affected the 2000 U.S. presidential election in 2 contradictory ways. Democratic Party candidate and sitting Vice President Al Gore said that Clinton's scandal had been a drag that deflated the enthusiasm of their party's base and had the effect of reducing Democratic votes. Clinton said that the scandal had made Gore's campaign too cautious, and that if Clinton had been allowed to campaign for Gore in Arkansas and New Hampshire, either state would have delivered Gore's needed electoral votes regardless of the effects of the Florida recount controversy. Political analysts have supported both views. Before and after the 2000 election, John Cochran of ABC News connected the Lewinsky scandal with a voter phenomenon he called Clinton fatigue. Polling showed that the scandal continued to affect Clinton's low personal approval ratings through the election, and analysts such as Vanderbilt University's John G. Geer later concluded Clinton fatigue, or a kind of moral retrospective voting, had a significant impact on Gore's chances. Other analysts sided with Clinton's argument and argued that Gore's refusal to have Clinton campaign with him damaged his appeal. Collateral scandals. During the scandal, supporters of former President Clinton alleged that the matter was private and about sex, and they claimed hypocrisy by at least some of those who advocated for his removal. For example, during the House investigation it was revealed that Henry Hyde, Republican chair of the House Judiciary Committee and lead House manager, also had an affair while in office as a state legislator. Hyde, aged 70, during the Lewinsky hearings, dismissed it as a youthful indiscretion. When he was 41, a highly publicized investigation campaign actively sought information that might embarrass politicians who supported impeachment. According to the British newspaper The Guardian, Republican Congressman Bob Livingston had been widely expected to become Speaker of the United States House of Representatives in the next congressional session. Then, just weeks away after Flint revealed the affair, Livingston resigned and challenged Clinton to do the same. Following Livingston's resignation, Dennis Hastert, Republican representative from Illinois, gained the support of the Republican leadership to seek the speakership as Livingston's successor. He began serving as Speaker in January 1999, and held that role while the Senate conducted the impeachment trial. On April 27, 2016, former Speaker Hastert was sentenced to 15 months in federal prison for structuring $1.7 million in payments to cover up allegations of sexual misconduct he had made, in which federal prosecutors have said he had molested at least 4 boys as young as 14 while he worked as a high school wrestling coach decades earlier. At the sentencing hearing during the trial, Hastert admitted under pressure from the judge that he had sexually abused boys. The judge in the case referred to Hastert as a serial child molester, and alongside imposing a sentence of 15 months in prison, he also charged him with 2 years supervised release and a $250,000 fine. Hastert is one of the highest-ranking politicians in American history to be sentenced to prison. Flynn's investigation also claimed that Congressman Bob Barr, another Republican House manager, had an affair while married. Barr had been the first lawmaker in either chamber to call for Clinton's resignation due to the Lewinsky affair. Barr lost a primary challenge less than 3 years after the impeachment proceedings. Dan Burton, Republican representative from Indiana, had stated, "No one, regardless of what party they serve, no one, regardless of what branch of government they serve, should be allowed to get away with these alleged sexual improprieties." In 1998, Burton admitted that he himself had had an affair in 1983 that produced a child. Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich, representative from Georgia and leader of the Republican Revolution of 1994, admitted in 1998 to having had an affair with then House Agriculture Committee staffer Callista Bissac while he was married to his second wife, at the same time as he was leading the impeachment of Bill Clinton for perjury regarding an affair with intern Monica Lewinsky. Republican Helen Chenoweth Hager from Idaho aggressively called for the resignation of President Clinton and admitted to her own 6-year affair with a married rancher during the 1980s. Personal acceptance. Historian Taylor Branch implied that Clinton had requested changes to Brank's 2009 Clinton biography, The Clinton Tapes, Wrestling History with the President, regarding Clinton's revelation that the Lewinsky affair began because I just cracked. Branch writes that Clinton had felt beleaguered, unappreciated, and open to a liaison with Lewinsky, following the Democrats' loss of Congress in the November 1994 elections, the death of his mother the previous January, and the ongoing Whitewater investigation. Publicly, Clinton had previously blamed the affair on a terrible moral error and on anger at Republicans, stating, "If people have unresolved anger, it makes them do non-rational, destructive things." Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?